Hi class, it's Bill Berry here with a multi-table query lecture, and we're going to cover an extension of what we learned last week, which was working with queries for single tables. So this week we're going to learn how to bring data out of multiple tables together, which is another great SQL skill, another bread and butter skill that all database folks should know well. Again, this is one of the things that you're going to use most when you work in a database environment, is you're usually doing queries more than you're doing anything else. So the first thing we're going to do is talk a little bit about the concept of a join. What is a join? What does that mean? And what are the most common types? Then we're going to learn how to write the queries that are going to make that happen, bringing data from two tables. Don't forget, we're going to extend the knowledge that we learned before, so you don't throw away everything you learned last week with single table queries. We're just going to extend. So a lot of what you learned, how the where clause goes and everything else, that's all going to apply exactly as it did last time. You're just going to have more tables to work with. And so that's what we're going to do in this video. First thing is, what is a join, and what are the basic concepts that we need to understand in order to work with it? First thing is, remember that we had an exercise that we did both in class and in one of the on the first homework. That is, we looked up some data and then we followed that data and looked up the corresponding primary key, some sort of ID, in another table, and then we looked up that information in yet another table, and etc., so that we could figure out all the data that went together for some specific purpose from a certain set of tables. You did a join, right? You were exactly doing a join, but that was a manual join, and that was certainly no fun, right? We don't ever want to do that again. So what we're going to do is learn how to use select to do the join for us. And join brings together data from multiple tables, but that's the idea. One thing that you're going to want to do, though, is you're going to want to have an EER in front of you. When you're working with multiple tables, it's very hard to do this stuff if you don't have the EER. When you were working with single tables, you could work with the schema navigator, and that worked pretty well because you could get a list of columns. But here you've got too many tables to deal with. So if you haven't already downloaded the sample EERs, database EERs from the reference section at the top of Canvas, you're going to want to do that and have those handy. Remember that our sample databases are going to include those from the MySQL, which is Sequila and World, and also the ones that are from your author. So you'll want to have all of that handy that's in the reference section. First thing to look at is, what is an example? We'll go all the way back to the beginning when we were learning the first week about what is a database look like and what are the very basic things of normalization. We didn't really call it out by name, but we were separating out entities and we were taking out data that was repeated. So we were kind of actually normalizing our database to a small extent. But let's look at an example where we start out with our member table over here and we have our donation table over here. What if we wanted to get a list of the members and IDs and their names along with the donation date and the donation amount? Those come from two different tables, right? This data here, the member ID and the member name, come from this table, whereas the donation date and the donation amount come from this table. So if we wanted to bring that data together, we would be doing what is called a join, right? We'd need to bring it together. But the other thing to note is that joins are not done willy-nilly, right? Most of the joins that we learn are very orderly and they have a particular reason. So for instance, here, the member ID 1 is going to be used to join this data and this data. So the member ID here has to be connected back to the member ID here in order to bring this data together. And this row has to bring together this member ID here, again with Pat Johnson. So this column, in fact these two columns, are going to be key. This is not unusual. We talked from the very beginning about the fact that primary keys and foreign keys make the world go round. So we're going to need those again here. When you're joining data, you need to understand how the data comes together, and that is 99.9% of the time done with primary keys and foreign keys. So one of the first things you have to do is identify those keys to make sure that you're gluing data together properly, or you're going to get some really messy results. So that's the basic idea behind a join. Now let's look a little bit at the different types of joins, and then we'll jump in and learn some SQL. The first thing we're going to do here is sort of an overview of what we're going to do. We're going to look at all things join in this video, or maybe in a couple videos. First thing we're going to do is concentrate on an inner join. So what is an inner join? And then, where are we going with it? But we're going to use this hierarchy as a touchstone. We'll come back to it and we'll pay attention to what we're going to do in each of these ones. So this will be our sort of table of contents and show us where we are. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to learn how to write some joins in SQL, but we need to look at the very first kind of join first, and then we'll learn how to write it. So at this point, we're going to focus on inner joins. So this next part of the video is going to talk about inner joins and how to do those. So I think what we're going to do though is this has been sort of the intro part, and the inner joins will take us a while to cover. So I think I'm going to break the video here, and then we'll start back up and jump in right to our inner joins, and we'll do that in just a second. So thanks for watching this video. Come on to the next one, and we will continue our thoughts.